Oh, that's, by committee? No.
Good evening.
By committee is not. Never
It
good.
is Tuesday, February 1st, about 7:05 p.m. And I'd like to call this meeting of the Litchfield Planning Board to order. With that, if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Start with appointment of alternates. Sam, would you like to be appointed for voting tonight? Okay. And roll call of members present. Michael Croto, the chair, is not here tonight, so I will be running the meeting. I'm Kate Stevens, vice chair.
Ron Stevens, member.
Kimberly Queenan, Selectman's Rep.
Sam Terrell, alternate member.
James Buffetti, member.
Curtis Sampson, member.
To start, I'd like to ask if there is any public input for anything not on the agenda tonight. Hearing none, I'll close that public input. And the only thing on the agenda tonight is Corning Farm at River Edge. It's an application for 64 three-bedroom townhouses. The units are proposed to be 16 four-unit buildings of multifamily housing on a 39.6 acre parcel at 540 Charles Bancroft Highway, tax map 22, lot 14. The existing buildings are proposed to be removed except for the existing house, which will be converted into a two-family unit. We have the engineers to present tonight.
My name is Eric Mitchell. My office prepared these plans for Reggie Morrow, who is here. As was stated at the last meeting, the property has been transferred from the DeBlois Family Trust into Reggie created new LLC for this. So the name did change. He had mentioned at the last meeting, I think the notice is now changing. It's changed so that it's actually the Corning Farm at River's Edge LLC is what it is. But Reggie is also here representing them because he's a principal in the LLC. When we were here 2 weeks ago, the board is looking at acceptance. The application was not accepted. And one of the main reasons, I believe, is that the traffic study that was done was not received in time to fully review and get analyzed, even though we had asked for a waiver for acceptance purposes only to not have it submitted. But since then, I think it has been reviewed. Steve Pernow, who prepared that, is here tonight. He's sitting behind me next to Reggie, and he's available to speak to the nature of that study. And also at the last meeting, after we had comments from board members, one thing was what the traffic was at Corning. And Steve has actually taken counts, even though it was in the last 2 weeks, pretty short order to do that, but he's taken counts and done an analysis of what is out there for traffic at the Corning intersection, and has come up with some additional information on the impact of our site on Corning, and also the taking a look at whether or not there needs to be turn lanes or whatever to get in and out of our site. That's something he can speak to. We understand that was just completed today, so it still has to go to review, but I think it would be helpful because the questions were raised, if he can give a brief synopsis of what he had come up with and what is out there. We have submitted the plans for New Hampshire DOT, which has control over our access points there. And as I had stated at the last meeting in a conversation with DOT before we had come to the board, they said they did not need a traffic count. They just wanted a study done of the traffic up and down the road. They just wanted to have an indication of what traffic is being generated for the project and what directions it would be coming and going out of the site. We have submitted that to DOT for an application for them to review. In addition to that, there was a comment from National Grid, who has the utility easement across the site. They were notified as I guess as an abutter. They were notified and wanted to have some additional information. We have talked to them. We have pulled together the information that they want. We had a discussion with them over the phone back several months ago before our plans were submitted about the ability to put detention ponds and things under the power lines. And they said that would be something that could be permitted. They said they wouldn't allow something like a septic system because they can't drive over the top of it. You could drive by mistake over it and mess it up. But to do improvements like a detention pond, they said that that's something that they could look at. Currently, there is some pasture and also cornfield, which is underneath the power line. So there are, it historically has all been used, quite a bit's been used for agriculture. The one thing that they did ask us to do is to identify the height of the wires. That's not something we can just look up and do. We have the instruments, survey instruments to do that, but we'll have to do some geometry and angles up and down to try to do that, and we'll get them over to it. We do not, we're not going to add any structures or anything. They're going to have any heights to them, so that's not an issue. But they said they just want to make sure they have on file what the height is, because if, say, an excavator is used to dig out one of the detention ponds, they just want to make sure that there's enough clearance underneath that. So we will be furnishing that to them. We have also discussed pathways and things through the site, and we'd like to get a little bit further on and perhaps deal with the Conservation Commission on access through the site. The old trolley line does go through the site. That's something we would like to maintain because it's actually elevated up. It's out of the wetlands and it's easy to walk back and forth. But Reggie has also talked to the Conservation Commission about possibility of having some of the land that's not being used for development and everything to the south of the power lines, perhaps being added to into conservation, which would be adjacent to the Moores Falls property the town also already has an interest in. With that, I'd like to answer any question you might have, but we'd like to look to do the, see if we can get the application accepted. And then if you would like, Steve, any questions you have of me, but Steve can go over questions relative to traffic, because I know that's one of the bigger things. Some of the things that had come up at the last meeting or in the review by Jay is they wanted to have information added to the plan relative to the number of parking spaces. We did send out today just a cover sheet, but the rest of the plans are being revised, based on Lou's comments and that. So those are still in the process of being revised, but we did put a note just on the plans to show that we're willing and able to do that. Parking spaces themselves, so that the townhouse units are going to have one single garage plus 2 spaces outside. So it would be technically a total of 3 spaces per unit where 2 is required. The house, which will be converted to a 2-family, or it may already sort of be a 2-family now, will have 2 spaces per unit. So that would meet the zoning requirement. We've also, Reggie has looked into the what would be required for impact fees. We've listed those onto the cover sheet of the plan, but we have to verify whether that's right, because I think the total amount is like $6,700 per unit, which seems like a lot of money, but maybe that's what it is. So we have to verify that. We've also made a note on the plan that circulation, all the driveways will be 2-way traffic, and that we do propose to put a 6-foot sidewalk from the northerly entrance into our site all the way to the southerly boundary. We would propose to put that within the state right of way. DOT is still going to have to confirm that that's okay. But that is something that we would do. It's a little bit tight in front of the existing building, which we're trying to preserve because they have a retaining wall that comes out real close to the edge of the right of way itself. So just to grade it back, we're going to have to work with that. But we will. And something that I had looked at. I know that you have proposed zoning that the Northern Commercial District is to require 6-foot sidewalks. This property is in the residential district, but the south of Butter is the commercial district. So just to be able to have, I guess, a sidewalk for anybody who lives in here to walk down to Morris Falls is something that would be helpful if and when additional sidewalk is put in down to Morris Falls. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions, but take it from there.
Before we get to questions, Jay, we have everything we need for application acceptance now that we have that traffic study. Is that right?
Yes, we have the traffic study. We have the elevations and additional notes were added to the plan. Granted, not the full set, but we do have the cover sheet that indicates those. So, yes.
And Joan, did you need anything else for application acceptance?
No, I have everything, the fees and abutters that were noticed twice.
Okay. So I think with that, I would take a motion for accepting the application unless we have any other questions beforehand.
Just a question for Jay, if you don't mind. Was the traffic study reviewed by anyone?
We had it viewed internally by our transportation planners, yes.
Thank you.
And I think the memo should be up on the site.
Okay.
I would guess Luke Heron's probably going to look at it also.
I'll make a motion to say that this application at Corning Farm at River's Edge is complete.
Okay. Motion by Kim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, or any abstains, right? Motion passes 6-0-0 for your application is accepted.
If I might, I'd like to add just a couple things from that we talked about also at the last meeting. One question that had come up is there's a discussion as to when you might want to have a site walk and also to look at the site itself, but also what the traffic looks like. We are available to do that. So if that's a request of the board, we would like to get that scheduled tonight if we can. And as I talked about at the last meeting, if we are able to do it on a Saturday when most people are available, but then if other board members want to go the following week and the upcoming week after that, the stakes will be in there where it is and they can look at the existing traffic to be there just so they can see it during peak hour if they wanted to. And there was also the question hasn't been raised yet verbally at the last meeting, but there's a possibility that this may be a development of regional impact. And I believe the board has to make a decision on that. So we have not contacted Manchester yet. We are about a half mile from the Manchester town line. And even though 3A is a busy street, personally, I don't see that there's an issue with that. But if it's a policy of the board to want to do have us contact Manchester to let them know we're doing something and it may have regional impact, we would need the board to inform us of that.
I know for a fact there's interest in a site walk. Would you like to schedule that now?
Yes.
And we had talked about the 12th. It's a Saturday.
And then we were going to do one midweek
And
also.
one midweek.
Well,
Yeah.
the only thing I'd say about the 12th is if we have deliberative session this Saturday, the 5th, but if it's a horrific snow day, the 12th is the backup for the deliberative
Backup? Okay.
session.
And
You said the 5th is a snow day?
The 5th is actual deliberative session, but if for some reason snowstorm We still have to the 12th.
The 13th, would the 13th work? That's the Sunday.
I wouldn't be able to be here the 13th.
Well, you could do the 12th, kind of do the same thing, do the 12th, and then if the deliberative session gets bumped, you could tentatively schedule the following week.
Bump the,
Yeah,
Ours would be the 19th.
yeah.
bump it to the 19th.
So the snow date would be the 19th.
What time does the deliberative session begin?
10
It
o'clock.
starts at 10
That's on the 5th, though.
on the 5th.
Yeah, no, I know, but I was assuming it get bumped.
I would think it would be 10 o'clock again.
Okay,
on the-
so, but maybe we could do it at 8:30?
Is it 30?
I'm going to be there early. I have to get there and
Okay.
prepare. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so that wouldn't work anyway.
Not real, not, it's too tight.
Okay.
Well.
But it doesn't mean I have to be there if other people want to go.
Let's say the 12th and the 19th as a snow day. Like if we need to bump it, would that work? If we do the
12th
12th
works,
and then
yes.
if deliberative gets pushed, we can push it back to the 19th. How's 10 a.m.? I think that's when we usually start.
That's
10
fine.
a.m. Okay?
Yep.
All right. So site walk on Saturday the 12th at 10 a.m. And if town deliberative gets bumped to the 12th, then we will push that off to the 19th.
That's good in case of butters or other people want to also join the walk. Right.
Yes. Yes. Public is welcome to the site walk. And how about for a weekday? I don't know that I'm going to be able to make it for a weekday, but if there was anybody that wanted to be there in the morning next week.
I would suggest that we do it the Tuesday after the Saturday that the first one is done. I think Tuesday
Okay.
was the busier times. Is that correct with that?
Yeah, Tuesday and Friday, I think.
So I would suggest we do a Tuesday. If it happens to be the 12th, then it would be what, the
The
15th?
15th. And that would be the night that we have our planning board meeting too.
And PM is heavier traffic than AM. The PM peak is the heaviest.
What time is the
Or maybe
PM
we're
peak?
better off doing the PM then.
Yeah, I would think so.
What time is the PM peak? Is it 5 or
4 to
6?
7.
Yeah. It's a range. So 5, 6 will be your highest
Yes,
hours. 4
yeah.
to 7 is the peak.
Okay.
It's the middle too.
I might be
So
able to do 5.
What's the morning peak time? I know it's on the report here. I saw it
6 to
somewhere.
7, 7 to 8.
The only thing about evening is it would be dark.
yes,
So
Yeah.
you'll see headlights, but not be able to see what's coming and going. I mean, it's up to the board of what you want.
Is there a preference?
I personally don't think it matters. I mean, headlights or no headlights, you're going to see the amount of volume. That's kind of what we're looking for.
Well, I can go probably more in the morning,
And around 5, it won't be too dark.
right.
Right.
And
but we
then
can show up at different times, right? Do you have a problem if
course.
some go in the morning and some go in the afternoon? Do you have a problem with that?
We do the
Are
same.
you okay?
We just,
I just want to see the school buses, how they're interacting. Okay.
I just thought the
Okay.
evening might be very convenient for all of us to do that and then just come right here.
Yep, but I have a commitment, so,
Well, if-
but
Okay.
so I can do the morning one.
If you're going to be available for both, then just leave it open. If you want to go to the morning, go to the morning. If you want to go to the afternoon, go to the afternoon. I'm going to go to both because I think it matters what both times. You know, in the morning you're going to see the interactions with the school buses, and at the evening you're going to see the interaction with everybody that wants to just get home. So that's when everybody's kind of like really trying to get home. You know,
So what time in the morning on the 15th we're talking about?
Like 6 to
I'd
8.
say if peak is around 7, we should meet at 6:30.
6 to 8 or so.
7 to 8.
I think
Or do you want to meet right at
What time
7?
do the school buses
Meet
go?
at 7.
the abutter said it was around 7 that he saw most of the traffic. So how's 7?
7.
7,
Yeah.
okay, so 7 a.m. if you'd like to see the morning traffic on the 15th, and 5 p.m. for evening traffic. Does that work? I'm sorry?
4 to 5 was the highest hour.
4 to 5 is the highest.
So we should probably go
hour?
4:30.
4:30.
4:30.
4:30.
That'll be a little brighter too. Okay, does that sound good to everybody?
Is the 15th set in stone? Because my suggestion was if we did not go on the 12th, And we go on the 19th.
It would be the following Tuesday from the Saturday that we meet.
Right.
If we have to move
Okay.
the Saturday, we have to move the Tuesday.
22nd.
That's right.
Only makes sense because we're not going to want to show up the mornings without having to done the sidewalk. So. Tentative.
And what,
Yep, and so everyone knows we'll have a site walk on the Saturday. We'll have the road will be staked out and stationed. So also the stakes at 3A will be there. So just in case someone can't make it the Saturday, but is still going to go during the week, the entrances will have a stake near them and be graded as to where the two entrances are, as well as going all the way down the hill and across the front. So the roadways will be staked, driveways will be all staked out
okay, thank you.
before Saturday.
For Saturday. And about regional impact to Manchester. Did everybody get a chance to look at the traffic study? What do you think about notifying Manchester for regional impact?
I think it would be prudent of us to
Yeah.
do so.
I think it'd be the neighborly thing to do. We're going to add a lot of traffic. I mean, looking at the volumes here, going
Yep.
from 10 per house now to 400, and from what I was reading, trips per day. That's a lot of traffic that could be going that way to the overpass,
Yep.
down through Corning. So I would say we should just do it.
I think Corning Road, if you go down that, doesn't it go like, I haven't been down there, like Litchfield,
Londonderry.
Manchester, Londonderry, it's real
Yeah.
quick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a small
That's
section of
just
Manchester.
courteous about that. Even
And
if
that's
it's
a pretty good
15 to
cut through the
20% of the
93,
traffic,
so.
but
Do we need to have a motion on that?
Yeah.
Or is that, okay,
Yeah, take a motion.
I'll make
So-
the motion.
thank you.
Second.
a
You
tie.
Ron, second by Curtis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstain. Motion passes 6-0-0.
Speaking on that though, is that just for Manchester or should we also notify Londonderry because it's going through that area? What are our obligations on that?
It's really your decision. So it's really whatever the board thinks.
And it's just a letter, right?
Yeah.
I'm assuming there's no fee to it, so it doesn't hurt to do a letter to Londonderry, say, hey, we're going to be adding this.
It's a formal notice, but
Okay.
Would you like to make?
I would,
that
okay, I make a
motion?
motion that we also notify Londonderry.
Second.
Second. All right, motion by Curtis, second by James, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstain. Motion passes 6-0-0. Okay.
If I might, just for clarification,
Yes.
do we send the notices out or does Litchfield send those out?
it would be the town.
Okay.
We would just add them as a butters, basically.
All right. So with that, is there anything else you'd like to add to your presentation, or was
No.
there?
Other than we'd like to talk about the traffic and make discussions, and Steve's here to answer additional questions now that you've read the report, and also give a little bit of information on Corning Road as well,
Great.
if that's okay with the board.
Yes, that sounds good. It's Mr. Purnell, was it?
How about Steve?
Steve? Welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Stephen Perno with Perno and Company. And back in January 7th, we prepared this trip generation memorandum that included a trip distribution analysis. So basically, this memo tells you how many trips the site's going to generate and our best estimate on how many are going to head north, south, and to and from the east. Eric told me at the last meeting that, or as a result of the last meeting, you were looking for some additional information for Corning Road. So that's in this report, which I'll leave with the chair tonight. And I brought along flip charts so I can go through it quickly, but just to give you an idea of what you'd be looking at. So would this be a good place to set up the easel?
Oscar, what's best? This side or this side for easel?
Close to the TV.
Close to the
Okay.
TV.
Thank you.
Don't worry about my neck.
I didn't know anybody was sitting in there.
He knows that
Thanks
man
for
behind the
behind the
screen.
Exactly.
It's the Wizard of Oz over there.
Yeah, right.
So actually, I brought a board along for each report. This is the January report, and I'll just to bring everybody up to speed. Obviously, you know where the site is. This would be Corning, 3A. So this is just to show the site location, and also the DOT has a short-term count station up at the city line with Manchester. And in 2019, the DOT estimated you've got about 10,700 cars a day that would be back and forth. Just real quick, that's an annual average number. So what that means is if that count station was operating 365 days out of the year, if you took that volume and divided it by 365, that's the average daily. So this is kind of a blended number with weekdays and weekends and holidays and whatever. We always start our reports by researching available data. And this is the raw data that was conducted in April of 2019. So again, this is north of the site. And you can see Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, pretty consistent, higher than what you see on a Saturday and Sunday. Now, when you look at the raw numbers, 12,000 cars a day, 11, 12, 9, they may sound like important or big numbers, but to a traffic engineer, a daily volume really isn't all that important. That's because when we analyze intersections and sites, we're interested in the highest hourly volume. So if you take one of these weekdays and you plot the traffic demand from midnight to midnight, this is the kind of graph you get. You see a sharp peak in the morning, people going to work, drops off midday, peaks again in the evening, then drops off toward midnight. So what we're plotted is all this data, and you can kind of see it's consistent from one weekday to the next. So what we do when we do an analysis for a specific site is we go out and do traffic counts during the morning. Now, we don't know exactly what the peak hour is going to be, so we do the count from 7 to 9. And then we can calculate what the highest 1 hour period was. Same thing in the evening. We typically count from 3 to 6 p.m., 3 hours, and then we can identify what the peak hour is. And again, in that first memo, we included a trip generation estimate. This is the proposed apartments, the existing residents, gives us a total of 34 trips that's in and out during the PM peak hour. The morning peak, a little less, 27 trips. This information comes from the ITE, Institute of Transportation Engineers, Trip Generation Manual. Whenever we do studies in New Hampshire, this is what we are told we must use. And again, it's a national database. There's a lot of data in it, and this is what the DOT always asks for. And I guess they asked for a trip generation analysis. They didn't need a full study. This is the information that went to them. It's based on ITE. And then we came up with an estimate on where the traffic's going to go. Again, the biggest chunk to the north, next biggest chunk to the south, and a little bit down Corning. So these two diagrams show the AM peak hour and the PM peak hour and how we think traffic is going to split. This analysis is done by looking at Reggie's site plan and the internal road layout and where the homes are located. And what we're estimating is that the northerly driveway is going to carry the majority of the site traffic. So again, 27 in and out in the evening and 7 on the south. And that comes up with your 34. And again, Corning Road, we're seeing like 5 additional cars during the peak hour. This is not a huge number by any means. So then we took that report and expanded it, if you will, into the new report I'll leave with you tonight, saying figure 1. And this is a little bit of a description. I'm not going to go through it about the existing traffic volumes, but what I do want to show you is figure 2. Again, you've seen this before. So here's figure 2, where we did that traffic count in January 25th. It was a Tuesday. We did the traffic count at Corning and Route 3A, and the morning peak hour was 7 to 8. So I heard you folks talking earlier. That's the highest hour we observed that day. And then the evening was from 4 to 5. So those would be good times to go out and look at traffic. If you look at the little box here, this refers to the two-way volume on 3A south of the site, 907, 890 in the PM. Now, normally the PM peak is higher than the AM peak, but you've got schools, you've got Hampshire or whatever. This is what we observed. The other thing that I observed is 874 and 874. It's not a typo, it wasn't a mistake, but miraculously, the morning peak hour north of the site was identical. What is different is the directional flow. If you look at the split in the morning, most people are heading south. In the evening, most people heading north toward Manchester.
Right.
In the evening, it's a southbound flow. So that's primarily the difference. Corning Road, 199 cars in and out from 7 to 8 in the morning. 192 in the evening, in and out from 4 to 5 p.m. And if you look at the arrow diagrams, you can see how many go left and how many go right, because that's part of the analysis. Here's the same trip generation summary. Again, worst case peak hour is PM 34. Total 22 coming in and 12 going out. And I showed you before how we thought that would split, with most of them heading to the northerly access point. We then did future projections for the year 2033. And just to give you some background, that's based on the January data that we collected this year. We use a growth rate, an annual growth rate. We then do a seasonal adjustment factor. Standard practice with DOT is you factor your data to a peak month condition. So no matter what month of the year we do our counts, we're always factoring up to that peak month. And we did a COVID-19 adjustment factor. We know the traffic levels are down a bit. And in this particular study area, we came up with a 20% adjustment for the morning and a 7% adjustment for the evening. Again, this is all going up to account for the COVID situation. So when you look at 2033, that's basically a 10-year projection into the future. And that's often used for analysis purposes. So again, AM, PM peak hour, figure 3 says no build traffic volumes. So these are the future volumes if this site is not developed. And that's why you see zeros on the site driveway. And again, these volumes are a lot higher than obviously what we observed in January. And again, they're peak month volumes. So it happens 1 month out of the year. And this is our build projection, 2033. And again, let's just focus on the PM. Again, 27 in and out at the north, 7 in and out at the south. And if you compare the two, you'll see a small increase on Corning Road. So that sets up or summarizes our future projections with and without the development. We then looked at intersection capacity and level of service. Just real quick, level of service is a letter grade system that's assigned to different traffic movements depending on delay. So let's say if you were making a left out of a side street, that delay can range, or the level of service can range from A to F, and it depends on how many seconds of delay. This is all done with a computer and algorithms. It comes from the highway capacity manual. Basically, we put the volumes in, it spits out delay and level of service. So that's the criteria. And in this particular study area, we have good news and bad news, which we usually do. 3A at the north entrance, 2033 build. If you're taking, or if you're leaving the site in the morning, level of service D, in the evening, level of service C. So again, you can go back and look, but we give a D because it's about 28 seconds of delay. That's on average. In the evening, about 24 seconds of delay. Again, algorithms are what come up with this estimate. Left turn in, northbound left turn into the north entrance, level of service A, means very little delay. And the reason why that's better than the other movement is when you are northbound, you have your left directional on, you only care about the gap in the southbound stream. If you're coming out of the site, now you got to look both ways, left and right, looking for that adequate gap. And that's why the delays are longer for that movement. If we look at the southerly entrance, same situation. Level of service C and B during the peak hours for coming out, level of service A for coming in. This is good news. No congestion, minimum delays. This is also an estimate of stacking or queuing, very short coming out of the site. Here is your bad news, Corning Road. Remember, a couple hundred cars coming in and out. So now you see levels of service F. And F doesn't mean failure, like in school, but what it means is your delay is off that chart. So the only good thing that I can say is it's level of service F without the development, and it's level of service F with the development. So, yes, we're adding cars, but if you look at the change in delay or whatever, it's really not critical. But again, you'll see the results for the AM and the PM peak hour. There is a little caveat in that highway capacity manual. And what it says is that when your volume exceeds the capacity, mathematically, if that ratio is over 1.0, watch out on the delay in the queuing estimates. The formulas break down. So what we just put a little asterisk there just to indicate that the algorithm tries to do its best, but the delays and the queues go asymptotically crazy. So, but again, I certainly agree with level of service F. And you know that when it's a peak hour and you're taking a left out of Corning, it's not a picnic. And the only good thing I can say is it's not going to change a heck of a lot with this development. The last bit of analysis you'll find in there is the need for auxiliary turn lanes. So here we're analyzing the two new intersections, and we're asking the question, does the highway have to be widened to provide a left turn lane in? Southbound, you need an exclusive right turn lane. And coming out of the site, how many approach lanes do you need? So if you look at the northerly and the southerly entrance, we have a bunch of no's. And again, this is good news. And what this means is that a standard T intersection with one approach lane on each leg is fine for the level of traffic we're talking about. You don't need auxiliary turn lanes. And again, this criteria comes from a publication called NCHRP 457. And the DOT says this is what we want you to use. In terms of the left turn lane warrants analysis, I have a real problem with it because we'll analyze sites with, I think the record is 8 or 9 left turns in the PM peak hour. And the software says, oh, you ought to have a left turn lane. So my answer to that is, well, why don't we just put in left turn lanes everywhere? And the DOT understands that. And this is not a litmus test, but it's a question that comes up and you have to look at the advantages and disadvantages. So again, good news on this page. And what we talk about is the bad news under our findings and conclusions. If you run that analysis for Corning Road, 2033, it says it wants everything. It wants left turn lane southbound, it wants an additional lane northbound, and it wants 2 lanes coming out of Corning. So I call that ideal. That would be the ideal situation. And again, I think if we analyze, I'll bet 9 out of 10 intersections we analyze in a study area, we always find that more is needed according to the textbook, if you will. And again, the good news is that site traffic at 34 is going to get split between the north, the south, and the east. So it really ends up being pretty insignificant. I think our estimate to the north of the site was plus 15 in the evening peak hour. That was a worst case situation. So if you think about it, 60 minutes, 15 cars. That means an additional car every 4 minutes, 3 minutes. So I know you just made a decision about regional impact, and I'm not disagreeing, but I gotta tell you, a difference of 15 cars in 1 hour, that already happens between yesterday and today. Random traffic flow has a bigger impact than this site will. So I'm still saying this site will have an impact, every site does, but the magnitude of it is less than the variations that happen from one day to the next. So that's kind of how we see it. I know Eric's office has analyzed site distance. That's key. You gotta have good site distance, and his drawings show that you do. Our analysis is saying simple T intersection will be fine. Put a stop sign up for those coming out, and that's about it. So that's a conclusion to our two reports, and be more than happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions?
I have a couple of questions. Can you define for me what you mean by delays?
What do we mean by delay?
Delays, yes.
It's called control delay, and it's, the output is average. Let me find that chart. Jim. We will find it. There we go. Control delay, seconds per vehicle. And what this does, or what the algorithm does, it calculates the amount of time that you would be stopped at the stop bar, plus the delay time coming up to the stop bar where you have to ease off on the gas and slow down and come to a full stop. And also your acceleration time when you're leaving the stop bar. So it kind of compares it with a free flow movement. But again, under stop sign control, you've got deceleration, you have to wait, and then you have to accelerate. So it's based on a per vehicle. By the way, level of service F in the US is anything over 50 seconds if it's a stop sign controlled intersection. And I often say, you know, you tell a taxi cab driver in New York City, you're going to have to wait 55 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, that's level of service F. He'd laugh and say, no, that's B. A or B. The other thing I got to tell you is, well, I've already told you that the projections are based on peak month. We're looking at 2033, so crystal ball, 10 plus years into the future. The other thing the analysis is based on is not the full hour, but it's the highest 15-minute period within the hour. So I don't know why, but us traffic engineers are very conservative when it comes down to this kind of analysis. That most people don't know that, but it's really peak month, peak hour, peak 15-minute period. I can't get much more of a worst case analysis than that, but that's the way we do it.
Reason why I asked about the, defining the delays is because I think there might be more of an impact on the time of delay or length of delay once school buses start there. With 66 units, there's going to be an awful lot of kids and an awful lot of buses.
Yep.
And I think that, if we're saying 24 seconds, I think that's, I just threw that number out. I don't know if that's the number you used, but it's going to definitely increase.
So the way that's accounted for in the analysis is that, well, first of all, when we did our counts, we did a breakdown between cars and trucks because you need that. You need that. And school buses would be called a truck. And that's part of the input into the software. So in a way, it is accounted for.
It is.
And that could be one of the reasons why the delays are higher during the AM than the PM, is exactly because of that. So it is, I'd say, indirectly accounted for.
Okay. How come there's no data for Monday daily traffic variations?
Oh, well, that's the state. This is their data.
Okay.
To be honest with you, nowadays we're getting 3 days. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is their favorite. And sometimes, you'll get 7, but not, it's just a matter of when they put it in, when they picked up their equipment, and if they had any tube failures. And even a permanent station that counts all year long, they'll be missing data for whatever reasons. But and again, you'll find that in the first memo. Yeah, Tuesday through Sunday.
So the models that you use, you put in this, you must have these algorithms that you
Mhm.
use, and these trip generation. I'm assuming it accounts for an estimate of the number of vehicles that would be owned by the people who live there, but also other vehicles coming in and out of the site. Like, I mean, one of the things that's changing in our society is the number of delivery vans, like Amazon and UPS and FedEx, and
Uber Eats.
it's a constant thing that that in a relatively short period of time that we have this huge influx in our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So does this take account of that?
That's a very good question. So here's the deal. I mentioned the ITE trip generation manual. Where that data comes from is from across the country, from existing subdivisions, if you will, where guys like me will do counts and submit the data. And this manual comes out every 5, 10 years, whatever. And in terms of this land use code, residential anyway, in general, the trip rates have actually been trickling down a little bit over time. Single family home is the biggest generator, and the number used to be 10 trips per day. And I think if you look at the new manual today, it'll be 9 point something. So we do see some evidence coming down.
But is that it? Sorry.
Let me just finish. Over the years, we've looked, I think, at 14 sites in New Hampshire, and just say, hey, how's ITE doing? It's high. We're, as a general rule, below the ITE average. I think there was an exception once in Amherst. And then, you bring a good point up about the delivery vehicles and vans. Unfortunately, that data won't really show up for a couple of years, but I order online rather than getting in my car and going down.
Right.
So there's got to be a trade-off. Is it a net plus or a net minus? We could have an interesting discussion.
If I judge from my house and the number of Amazon deliveries that I get, it's a net plus. Right? I mean, it's gone up tremendously.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you another question. When you look at these traffic studies, if you look at the northern exit and entrance to this proposed site, just beyond that, there is a pretty sharp bend in the road as you're heading towards Manchester.
Yeah.
Do you consider that at all in the traffic flow? Is that beyond the scope of what you're asked to do?
The answer is no, because the traffic that goes through the S curve still shows up at Corning, where we pick it up. So, we do the counts to identify the peak hour and how many cars.
Okay.
Whether there's an S curve or not, the number is the number.
So you wouldn't be looking at safety issues necessarily, right? You'd be looking at the number of vehicles that would be impacted. But if there is a curb there and people are coming down, especially in the evening, coming back into Litchfield, and there are vehicles coming out on that northerly exit, that could present some safety issues for people looking to get out into the traffic.
All right. I don't disagree with that. I do agree with it. And in terms of safety, the biggest thing I mentioned tonight was sight distance. And Eric's office has measured the sight distance and shows clearly that there's enough sight distance for the speed of the vehicles coming. So that's one check.
Okay.
The other has to do with intersection design.
Yeah.
If we had more cars coming in and out, I might be telling you, hey, you ought to have 2 approach lanes like Corning. Traffic control devices. You don't need a traffic signal, but I did recommend stop sign. So those are the kind of safety considerations that go into, the new intersections that are being created by this project.
Yeah. All right. I have one more question. Can I?
Sure.
I may have more, but the one comes to mind. So the way this this proposal is designed as, and you recognized it, that most of the traffic coming in and out will be using that northerly entrance and exit.
Correct.
If that wasn't the case, I mean, if most of the traffic was accessing through the southern, would that make a difference at all in how you would analyze it? I mean, I haven't looked at the study close enough
Yeah.
to see how, how people are
Yep.
turning. So if people are coming out, they tend to be turning north or south when they would leave the site, and I just wonder if it makes a difference.
So this is the north one, coming out in the morning, level service D.
Yeah.
You're saying if I reduce the volume here and have more of it come out here, this delay would go
Here
down.
is the
Southerly.
southern neck. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
So the delay would go down here a little bit, and the delay
Okay.
would go up a little bit there.
Yeah.
But D and C, most likely you're not gonna change that unless, you always have to, unless if you look at the chart, level of service D and C, the break even is 25 seconds. So if you're at 24.9 and you drive that to 25.1,
Right.
level of service changes. Does the
Right.
driver feel that 0.2 of a second? No.
Going off, what you're saying, Mr. Perfetti. If you pull the weekends out of this,
Mhm.
I think the biggest concern for the board here is that we're worried about the Monday through Friday PM and AMP.
As you should be, right.
So if you pull the weekends out, your average goes from 10,901 to 12,111 per day. So wouldn't that change your traffic flows and patterns during the weekday, if that's what we're really concerned about?
Actually, the answer is no, because this particular graph is just us researching available data.
Mhm.
Hey, we found something up here away from the site, and it tells us, hey, we ought to count from 7 to 9, 3 to 6. Okay, that's the end of this data.
So that,
And
so
I
you
already
guys-
knew that beforehand.
Okay.
But I put it in the report to show people. So that's why we go out and do the 7 to 9, 3 to 6. Then that shows up on figure 2 in the new report that you're going to get tonight.
So on page 4 of the report you were just showing us with the trip generation summary,
Yep.
is that based off of your observations out there doing your trip summaries, or is that based off of this weekly data that
That's based on ITE. The trip estimates on table 1 are based on ITE.
Okay.
The National Bible. And
Okay,
again,
and that data that's from there, we're not thinking right now has accounted for all the extra Amazon, FedEx,
well,
Uber Eats
it
delivery?
does because, well, Amazon maybe not, but the historical data from all these sites, it includes visitors, fire trucks, oil delivery, postmen.
Okay.
In other words, when you counted a subdivision, you count each entrance and exit and come up with number of trips, how many units, you do the math, you send it to ITE.
Yeah, I was just curious if having just the Monday through Friday 12,000 average would have changed any of that data. So
So that's because our data was collected on the Tuesday, so.
Okay.
It's a midweek.
Ask you a question? One of my primary concerns is the school buses, which I think we have 3 different schools, so 3 different times, right? They go around.
I think
Is
two
it
of
only
the
2?
schools go,
All right.
doesn't
Do
Elements
you
and
plan
James
for them to
go
go into the complex to pick the kids up, or you want them to stop? They're going to be coming from the south going north, right? And they're going to have to cross traffic. If you stop the bus on the main 3A, they're going to have to cross the road to get into this. Or do you plan for them to go into the complex to be picked up and dropped off at an area?
I think we should ask Eric Mitchell that question.
Ask who?
Eric?
Oh, hi. No, I was looking at him.
I'm the traffic.
No, I was looking behind you. I was looking at
You're the
the one
study
behind
guy.
you. No. I was looking at
You're the study guy, he's the edge guy.
No.
I would have to ask the school district.
Yeah.
Because these may look like a road, they're the width of a road, but they're still private driveways. They may not want to drive in. And if most of the, I don't know whether, where are the high school students going in town? Are they going up to Manchester or are they going?
No, they're going
All one
Campbell
direction.
on Albuquerque.
Okay, so that, do the buses, and this is just a question, if any bus going north on 3A, do they turn around by the Manchester town line someplace and then start to head south?
They cross the Manchester line, I believe, and make a right turn and turn around in a neighborhood up there.
And would they come back down?
Yes.
Okay, so I would think that at least the students we picked up at the two ends of our roadways, or one, they can all walk there and get picked up on the southbound, so they wouldn't have to cross the street. But that is still something we would have to talk to the district about, just so we know.
That'd be a long stop.
that
66
could
units,
be-
let's just take half those units have 2 or 3 kids.
Right.
That's long delays right there on that main road.
You won't see anything close to that.
No.
Student generation there.
You won't?
Won't. I mean, if you see half a kid per unit generation in schools, that would be impressive for a townhouse development.
Just to give you an idea, I've got a similar project in Concord that I built with 124 units during each bus transit. So there's not, I'm surprised that there's not more, but that's just the way it is today.
That's good to know.
Yeah, it was very minuscule. I was surprised at that.
Yeah.
And we have a bunch of rentals up there that we rent out, and children just, they're non-existent in our rental units.
I got an additional comment. We talked about the trip generation. Something that we did not, the postal area where the mail pickup entrance. So that may, right now, he has more going to the northerly entrance than the southerly, but it looks like the southerly entrance, may be more people going that way if they're driving out to drop mail off in the morning and then getting up. They still, if they're going north, they're still going to turn and head north.
Right.
But they would be using that other access. But both the level of service for either of those at the counts that we have are okay. So it's just, and this is something I think also that Planning Commission had come up with too, that may be, it's not a bad thing, but the adjustment may have to be there. And also, I realize that copies of these report were just, I don't even know if one has been given to Jay yet, but I can give hard copies to as many as you want, so I can get them distributed or whatever. This wasn't meant for you to decide, yes, I agree with the traffic study tonight. We just wanted to give you information. So we have, if you need more hard copies, just let me know. I can give you more hard copies.
That's
Great.
Thank you.
a lot more than your presentation. Thank you.
Those are all attachments
Attachments.
for Jay to
Okay.
look at.
Yeah.
Do you need more copies, Joe? You want more?
I could use one for the file.
Just one for the file?
All right.
So
I'll put it on
so
the
people
site.
would pick up their mail in a central location on the southern entrance.
Yes, it does show on the plan.
Yeah.
If I find, I'll just point to it.
Yep.
This area right here,
Yep.
we have a enclosed area with a roof over the
Okay.
top, and the mailboxes are inside the triangle.
Yep.
And there's parking spaces out there. So anybody who is dropping off mail is going to run in, put it in the outbox, and then
But also picking up their mail coming home.
Correct.
They might be more inclined to go in that southern entrance to pick up their mail and then drive around to get to their.
correct. So the numbers would change perhaps a little bit from what we have north to south.
Yeah.
Be split up, probably maybe a little bit more even.
And did you say that mailbox is that far enough away? Is it going to be blocked by queued cars, like leaving in the morning?
Blocked by what?
By queued cars waiting to leave the southerly entrance?
No, because we have parking spots in front of it. So all the cars will be pulled in and parking in front of it. They're not parking on the edge of the driveway. They're parking in an actual parking spot. I think we have 6 or 8. We have 6 parking spots right there. So
But
they
you're
would-
not concerned about if there's 6 or 7 cars waiting to leave that southern entrance, that they are blocking those parking spaces?
Say you pull in the park to get your mail, the queue of cars leaving the property, are they gonna block you from getting back out?
Okay, we can look at the stacking on that, but we've got, just, Steve can speak more of it, but I think that if people are doing their mail, they're figuring out when the best time is to come pick it up and drop it off and do that. And if they pull in but can't back out because they have to wait for cars to leave, they're going to stop doing that.
The answer is less than one car.
Okay.
So for design purposes, I say use 50 feet.
And if you look at the scale, I think we have close to 100 feet from the Route 3A to the first parking space.
May I ask a question?
Yes, please.
When you showed the grades, I didn't think the grades were in the one we had tonight, but the ones that had the D, was that mostly because of Corning Road? Even though the trips are small, it looked like, well, the handout that we had in our attachment, we had 4 trips on in the AM peak on Corning Road and 5 trips at night. I'm looking at this.
Right.
Are we getting the Ds because of Corning Road or because the other traffic's going more smoother
The
or?
deal with the poor level of service on
Yeah.
Corning.
Yeah.
It's twofold. One is the volume of through traffic going by.
So they can't get out.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it just takes a while to find that
Mhm.
adequate gap. And then the other thing that compounds it is the delay coming up to the stop bar.
What do you mean stop bar?
With the stop sign.
Yeah.
So when you're
Right,
you're on
right.
the minor approach, and again, you have a couple hundred cars an hour back and forth on Corning. So there's delay waiting to get to the stop line.
Where are the accidents that I see? There's a brick wall there that has been smashed many times. Is it the people trying to get out of Corning Road quickly or is it people coming up and
I don't know
on
how many
3A?
times, I don't know how many times it's been hit. I know that the family that lived there said it was hit, but I don't know if it was more than once, but I don't know what caused it, to be honest with you.
People passing on the right.
Passing on the right? So they're going
heading
from north to
and they're
south?
trying to pass cars on the right that are turning into Corning. They can't wait. They have to pass on the right.
Does the police department keep any stats on
They're called.
intersections like that? The number of accidents they report that they go to.
I don't know how they calculate it, but we can check on that.
They do have crash data.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if just, well, the rest of them were fine. You know, that's what I was getting at.
I don't have any questions on the traffic study. I have other questions.
I have a couple. I just, I got to see what was answered already. Let's see. You had said in 2033, Corning was level service F, whether the development was built or not. Do you know what that is at today? Did you look at that?
Do you know what it is today?
Yeah.
It should be on the chart.
Is it? So it's a D today, and we're
Right, in the
expecting it to
morning.
just go longer, right? Okay.
Right. And again, if you'll notice, it goes from below capacity to way over capacity in theory in the year 2033. And you got the asterisk, and I'm just warning you that, you know, you got to be careful when you look at those delay results because we know the formulas break down. But we all agree it's going to be a level of service F either way,
Either way.
with or without the development.
Have you looked at restricting left and right turns to either of the entrances? Would that affect?
Restricting. I don't really see any advantage to when, with no restrictions, you know, again, level of service D and C, look at the volume capacity ratio, 11%. You know, the glass isn't even half full, it's 11% full. So there's really no reason to Yeah, because if you made one a one-way in and you make the other one a one-way out, now you're forcing everybody to one intersection. Whereas proposed now, that demand can split to two. So I think the town's much better off not funneling everybody to one intersection, but let people go where they want to go. You know, if they want to do the post office, do the post office.
Well, the natural progression would be if you find a path of least resistance at a certain time frame, you will go that route in order to bypass that resistance. So when you restrict it, you're forcing the inevitable to happen. You're not allowing things to, solve their own problems, basically.
Your delays would go up and your stacking would go up, confining it.
Okay.
I'd rather see a queue of two and a queue of two rather than a queue of four at one.
Oh, I don't
Did
think this
anyone
is a
else
good
have any-
answer, but I don't think this is a good question, but I'm going to ask it. It's already a D, means it's already in trouble. Is there something the town could do today that would improve that corning? Like, I think slowing down the speed limit maybe helps safety, but I don't know if that would help it enough. That's my saying. I don't know if there's anything we could do to help the situation today.
There was something I didn't mention that's in the report. Because we were asked about speeds out there. So we did a speed survey. So on page 3, when you get it, okay, we're typically interested in the 85th percentile speed. In other words, that's the speed at which 85% of the drivers drive at or below. Again, it's usually what's used for design. 46 miles an hour northbound, 48 miles an hour southbound.
That would be ideal, or that's what they do today?
No, that's what they're doing today.
Even, what's the speed limit
Yeah.
posted at, 40?
40.
Average speed was 44, 43 and 44
Yeah.
directionally.
But Kim, I think in answer to your question, it would be one or more turn lanes. That's what you would,
Give me what?
one or more turn lanes would be what you would need to do to
Right.
improve the capacity at that intersection.
I agree to that, but I didn't know if the speed would help if we lowered it to 35. I mean,
I'm just going to give you my own opinion about that. It's a state highway, and their mentality, I don't mean respectfully, but the way they look at it, move cars from A to point B, and to do it as quick and as efficiently as possible. If the private sector said, hey, I want to lower the speed limit on Route 3A, they'd laugh and throw them out of the office. If the town asked, well, now a little bit more attention. But what they would say is, do a speed survey and show us what the 85th percentile speed is. So if they saw 46 miles an hour, they're going, no. If the 85th percentile speed was 30, then they consider it. But and again, this is unwritten rule of thumb, but they like to base the speed limit on the 85th percentile. So this data wouldn't help.
It actually hurt it.
And the other thing is, if you lower the speed, I'm still going to drive home tonight
I know.
the same speed.
They go
Just a
further in
bigger speeding
Manchester,
ticket.
same.
And the idea about adding another approach lane, like on Corning, that's true. It does improve the egress capacity of Corning, but that left turner is still going to have level of service F. The advantage would be those turning to the right, because that could be a level of service B. So why make him, wait? But it doesn't solve the left turn departure problem. And the only way, there's two ways to do that. One is with a signal, if you have enough traffic to justify a signal, and I doubt if you do, and the other is a roundabout.
The only thing about
Good
the
news.
the only thing about the speed limit is that, a mile up the road, it's already at 30, I think, in Manchester.
It's like half a mile up the road.
It's like
speed
30.
changes to 30
Right.
in Manchester, the Manchester.
So that might be something the board we might be able
maybe,
to.
and those kind of,
Get the town do something, like to
Right.
request it.
That's
There
right. I
might be
think it's
something
urban
to-
compact when it changes to, so it's under Manchester's control, not the state's control.
Oh,
Oh, I see.
oh, is that right?
Right, yeah.
Because it becomes Brown Avenue.
It becomes urban.
It gets worse on that strip that we talked about last time.
yeah.
Because there were all those roads going into neighborhoods in Manchester. And it is a fair amount of accidents or near accidents. People that stop short to turn, especially coming home at night. Because I'm usually involved in all that.
What's the little street? If you look at this map in our handout here, you see where Corning Road is coming towards 3A? There seems to be a little street that goes further up 3A if you take a left before you get to 3A. See that little loop here?
Yeah. It's a bunch,
That's
it's all
Forest Lane. I
residential.
don't
yeah.
want to, upset people on Forest Lane, but I don't know if people that go all the way to 3A to take a left could go down there, and they probably do if they're local anyway, if they want to go left, right?
Say
I'm
that
just trying
again.
to just see if we could reroute traffic a little bit.
That area gets kind of busy during the springtime too, because that's the baseball fields
Yeah,
that
the
the
fields
town
are over
uses.
there.
Does anyone else have any questions for traffic? Okay, before we move on though, Jay, would you mind providing an overview of what NRPC had said about the initial traffic study? I know you haven't had a chance
Yeah.
to review the updated one.
Yeah, I think overall it was really pretty straightforward. And I don't know if you've had the chance to see our memo yet. But basically, our transportation planner concurred with the ITE trip generation. I think our biggest difference was on the split, where we estimate a more significant split to the north. So more vehicles would be heading north than was estimated. And that's based on a regional traffic model. So the impact is not huge. It's actually probably less to Corning Road. But we do estimate a larger split, a differential in the north-south split.
Okay. Well, if that's all the questions we have for now on traffic, do we have any questions for Mr. Mitchell, the engineer?
Yes.
Sure.
So, and we've talked about this, I think, every time you've been here, but, I think that the board looks at sort of the impact on the neighborhood. And so the two things that stick out to me, and I think they're, at least one issue was raised by abutters, was that northern entrance and exit. It looks like that the headlights coming out will be flashing right into the, and I didn't know if there was to diminish that impact. I read, figure out if there's a way to do that with either the angle of the road or with some shrubbery or but are there any strategies that could minimize that impact on the people across the street on South Bank?
I think we were here before with this discussion, or maybe a couple times, and a different abutter to the north had talked about the impact to his lot. So we moved it a little bit further to the south, which he's good with. But the other abutter who spoke, and I don't know if he's here tonight, has a concern with that. What I would like to do, if we can, is we will look at that visually when we're out on the sidewalk, see exactly what it looks like, and if there's options that we have to do, we will certainly be able to consider those.
Okay, and then, and I know we talked about this, I think, early on, but the way the plan is designed, it looks like that those those 4 units on the northern side, that they will come pretty close to the property line of the people who live on Temple. And I can't tell, I can't, maybe it's not on here, but I don't know how close they actually will be to the property line. So those folks who have bought those houses, on Temple are now going to face the prospect of a lot more activity and these condominiums that are going to be in their backyard. And so I don't know how close that was going to be, and if that was something that, again, the impact on those abutters could be something that could be minimized.
What we have, I'm just looking at the scale of the plan. The buildings are about 75 feet away from the abutting lot line. We do have grading with the turnaround and go around the building. One thing that we did is that we had the drainage coming around the building by the turnaround. But that created more fill, and we had more fill going up next to the lot line, getting much closer. What we have done is what was submitted to you, the main driveway in the site, towards the abutters, which means it's going to be less, more trees can be saved. And I think there was a comment, and I'm not sure who had made it, had talked about some landscaping. I think at some of the turnarounds we did next to abutting Temple, we had landscape trees that were at the end of the turnaround, so that you wouldn't be able to see the turnaround. But we can look at doing, I think the one close to the road maybe didn't have it, but the other ones did. So we'll look at doing some more landscaping through there. But what we tried to do is have all the drainage and everything else head towards the main driveway going down the hill, so that we don't have to do as much cutting and we can leave as much vegetation there. I think we have, I don't have a scale right here, but we probably have at least, I think, about 50 feet anyway, 40 to 50 feet that can be not cut or not done.
Okay.
And that showing on the screen behind you, the landscaping, I think that was being referenced by Mr. Mitchell.
Yeah, I'm trying to get oriented to that.
So we do plan to do landscaping up again there. And also a lot of the lots that are there, I think our plan sheet
You
right
can see
there,
the
you
adjacent
can see
houses.
that the distance between the building and where the houses
Sorry.
is quite a ways.
Sorry.
But you said 75 feet from the property line. Is that right?
Yes, I think we're probably about 75 feet. If you look at that plan right there,
Yeah.
I can see right now it's close to 1 inch equals maybe 100 feet on that, or is that 50 feet? 50 feet. So that's natural vegetation that's going to stay.
Right. Okay, and I couldn't tell if there's, would there be any reason for the residents to be in that area? I mean, would there be decks or patios or something from behind the house to the, would
No, the only thing that we have, you can see there's decks that are on the backs of the houses themselves.
okay,
That's all for individual
Yep.
unit ownership. There's nothing on the end of the building towards the abutters.
okay. All right.
That's the structure with the X through it.
Right, but and that all would be common property to the condominium, right? Which they could eventually, the condominium association could decide to do something with that at some point.
In our documents, what we do is we designate the decks themselves, if you see where those X's are, as limited common.
Yep.
We intentionally don't put any stairs off the deck down to the backyard.
Right.
The other thing that we do is we prevent people from having, things like swing sets and, those little kiddie pools and those kind of things, from leaving them out. If they bring them out, they've got to be brought back internally. They're not allowed to be out for an extended time. We give them, basically take it out. You want to play with it, has to come back and be put away. Otherwise, they're subject to fines. We found that over the years that's the best policy to have. We also don't, when it comes to decorating and those kind of things, we don't allow them to freely put things into trees or have, bird feeders out front or anything like that. They're allowed to decorate their front porch area, internally their windows, externally on their deck, but that's it, because we don't want it to look like it's a yard sale every day you drive through there. So we've found that holds the best value for the neighborhood and where people appreciate it the most.
But once the condominium association takes over, couldn't they modify those rules?
What you'll find is in order for them to, again, what we found is just from history, they don't modify them because they don't want to see that kind of thing happening. They've seen it in other associations where they're not
Well,
tight.
but so those kinds of regulations would be in the bylaws?
We put them we have a rules and regulations portion.
Yeah.
And we put it into the rules and regulations portion of the subdivision. It's almost like having a set of covenants for a piece of, if you're doing a regular subdivision, it's the same thing where people say no clotheslines in the backyard, no unregistered vehicles.
Yeah.
We kind of apply the same thing in the rules and regulations to the neighborhood.
Okay, no, I mean, again, I'm just trying to think about the impact to the people that live on Temple. And so if they had reasons to have gatherings, a loud party, I mean, they're not only now facing, looking at a bunch of condos in their backyard, but they could also, the noise level, the quiet enjoyment of their property would be jeopardized potentially, right, by
Those common areas require special permission from the whole association in order for them to be utilized. They're limited common they can utilize. So underneath their decks, they can utilize as they feel, their driveways, as they feel fit to do that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the common area, that's off limits for those kind of things, unless the association, says, hey, we're gonna have a neighborhood yard sale, or we're gonna have, a neighborhood, a gathering, then they can do those kinds of things. But that's typically what you'll see. You might see them twice a year just to allow people to get to know each other that live in the neighborhood. They'll do, twice a year kind of thing. But that's about it. I mean,
but it sounds like you're trying to try to keep as much of the vegetation that's there now, to keep that up as a screen.
Yes, and as you can see on the plan,
Yeah.
there's a lot of additional vegetation behind the turnarounds and up against the buildings that is to be added.
So is that going to be enough to block? Because we have a similar situation here. If people coming in to park at their houses are driving in, it looks like at each one of those blocks, they're pointing at the house that they're abutting. So now you've got 3 houses there, each one having headlights pointing. And it looks like maybe you have room for like a row of trees or maybe 2 rows of trees there between the house and.
We can look at beefing it up. As you can see, I believe, on this plan right here that's up, this is the second, third, and fourth buildings. The second and third from the bottom both have trees, but the fourth one doesn't. So we can add more trees to that. And I think when I looked at the first row that maybe didn't have trees, we'll make sure that gets there and talk to the landscape architect about actually beefing that up. It may be just a question of 4 high trees and then 4 lower trees set back a little bit, just so there's more of a barrier there, visual.
Yeah.
What is the grade right there? Is that a downhill grade coming from where the houses are going to the abutters? Is that a downhill?
It's more, the downhill pretty much goes from 3A down to the back of these units all the way down to the river. So that the last 2 units, it's flat. The 3 and 4 that I'm looking at here, it's pretty much flat. Those are in the cornfield. But it does go downhill from the first set of buildings, and the second, it goes downhill primarily in the direction towards the river. So it's about even grade off to the side to the abutter slots.
So if I'm pulling into the second set of units and I'm taking the right and going down there, my headlights, are they going to be pointing down towards an abutter, or is it kind of level with the abutters? It's level.
Closer to level on actually all of them.
Okay. I was only wondering is if you're driving that way, you might be on first floor for these houses here, but you could be shining right into their second floor.
What we attempted to do was to use a heavy, an evergreen at the ends of where you can see the T turnaround is at the very end. We attempted to use an evergreen, and you can see those 4 trees there. It would fill that in and block that from happening. We left it off on the lower one only because of the amount of screening that's already there naturally, that we didn't feel it would be necessary. But certainly we can look at that when we get out there and see what that natural buffer looks like. And if we feel that there's going to be an issue, we can do the same. We can add the evergreens there. But knowing that those will grow in thick and full, and that's what we're hoping for.
What is the current vegetation there? Is it evergreens or is it?
There's a lot of pine, but there's a lot of undergrowth in some of that area.
Yeah.
It's been there for a while and opened up. So the undergrowth has gone in. So there is some undergrowth.
What type of undergrowth is it? Is it a evergreen style undergrowth or is it more of like a
That's a good question.
seasonal?
It's more
Seasonal.
brushy. There's some hardwoods, but I think the pine trees have pretty much taken over the canopy.
That'll be
So
interesting.
there's not a lot of light for other hardwood trees to come up. It's more next to the power lines where the wetlands are. That's got more hardwood vegetation on it, but pretty much on the side we're talking for these sets of units, it's more pine, more mature pine.
Is there any restriction to how close you can build to the power lines?
None that I'm aware of. If you,
I know that we talked about you have to, you can't build underneath them, but
Yeah.
is there any safety restrictions or any limitations that are in terms of how close a residence can be to these power lines?
No, not that we're aware of. And talking to National Grid, their main concern is with something like this is construction, just to make sure whatever's being done is not going to, the wires won't impact your construction, what you're trying to do.
I think the only problem you'll see though is if you build close to the lines. If you've ever been by those wires, you just hear them
Yeah.
zapping.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna want to. Nobody's gonna want to buy that close
Yes.
because you listen to it during a rainstorm. It's loud.
Well, I mean, it does look like there's one
Yeah.
unit is, I don't know what the
Closer.
distance is, but it's closer to
Yeah.
actually a couple of units.
That's the easement. It's a 350-foot wide easement.
Okay. So those power lines may be for distance.
It's the pair, if you look at this plan here, the line which has a long line, two short dashes, long line, that's the edge of the easement, but the inside of that, those are the power lines
Okay.
with the towers, and there's two lines on each tower.
Okay.
That's the actual lines themselves.
Oh, I was looking at the line, the two dashes as the actual power lines, but it's
Yeah.
further back.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Anyone have anything else?
I've actually got a question for the board here. I was reading through our master plan and I found things that, well, I'll just read some of them. Some of our overall goals are to conserve the town's rural agricultural community character. As far as population and housing goes, to encourage housing design that is in character with our rural agricultural heritage, and to maintain Litchfield as a town of predominantly single-family houses. And it goes kind of on and on with that because, that's kind of what Litchfield is all about, is agricultural and rural. And I'm wondering if this plan is consistent with our plan of the town and if we have any recourse regarding that. I know you guys have put a lot of money into this, a lot of planning, and I appreciate.
There was a study that was done. You have the master plan, then there was another study that was done on housing and the development of the overall town. And they went out and they designated this area as a multifamily area. It was an overlay district put in. That was with the thought of having the master plan there. So what they wanted us to do is to comply as best we could with our structure designs and take the rural character. So what we did with our designs is to try to, take a multifamily home or a townhouse and make that look like as if it was a farm house with, additions that were added as they normally do progress. So we've worked within the overall picture of the master plan and the findings that came after the master plan by the town, and did our best to depict that with what we've done here. So I did read through all of the master plans as you have and followed it through with all the other things that happened after the master plan.
Yeah, okay. So you've considered that.
Absolutely. Yeah, prior to the acquisition.
There are also parts of the master plan that recognize that there is not a lot of variation in the types of housing in Litchfield, and that's something that needs to be reconciled. And
Yeah, okay.
we did see this last meeting, this design here, and that goes along with our regulations on larger buildings and the variated peaks and different colors to try to break it up. So I do think the building design goes well.
Yeah.
With both the master plan and our ordinances.
And we also, initially, when we had come in, we had, I think, had on the main, the driveway that goes, runs parallel to 3A. I think we had units on both sides of that. But because it was asked to have that pushback, we only have them on one side, so there's a little bit more open. And then, as was stated, we Reggie looked at changing the facades to be a little bit more agricultural type looking and not just a standard urban. Plus, as was stated, this is in the multifamily overlay district, and the district was created in order to, and I'm not speaking specific for Litchfield, but most places that do that, they see a need to provide certain types of housing, but only a certain amount. They don't want to do it all over town. They just want to say if it happens to fit. In this particular case, even though a lot of this land was being used for agriculture, we still have the ability to keep some of it open so it's not house after house after house. And we are working with the Conservation Commission to see about potentially keeping the balance of the land that we have in conservation, which sort of helps. So it's a trade-off, but I think that we've looked at building design as well as what we're trying to do with the property to try to do a balance.
Okay.
Do you have a sense of what the prices for these units were going to be?
Well, if you can tell me when lumber is going to stop going up.
Yeah, no, but that's, yeah.
Our hope was originally we were going to be in the low threes. I'm hoping that things will turn around and we'll start seeing things improving. But right now, that number's it's in the sky. We don't even really know at this point.
These are 3 bedrooms?
They are.
Are they all pretty much the same size?
Yeah,
Will be pretty much the same price? Or are you?
Yep. The floor plans are all very much the same, even though the facades look different.
Yeah, I mean, there was also a question. We've talked a lot about affordable housing. Not that that's affordable for some people, but that with the prices for homes in Litchfield, there aren't a lot of options. If you wanted to live here, and if it's something that's the design is consistent with the town, I think those things are 2 important factors.
So speaking of the conservation, you had mentioned about possibly extending the trolley tracks or keeping that path open so that it could be directly from the back of this neighborhood to
Yes.
Morse Falls. Would that be on your updated plan set?
I think, if I may, we'd like to talk a little bit more about that, and I'm not too sure who would be the best person to talk to in regards to that, as to what they would like to see. I mean, we have a lot of options that we can do. We can bring a path down along the river and bring it back into Morse Falls. We can come in through the currently existing trolleyway. So there's some great opportunities to put footpaths, but it's a matter of where you want to allow the traffic to go and where you don't want it to go, kind of thing. And I think I would rather work with the board on that and work with the Conservation Commission on that, and kind of put trails where they won't be detrimental, but more be more adversarial to the community. And I personally, me making that decision, I'm not sure I would be the best person to do that. So I would rather take the input of this board as well as the Conservation Commission and see what their thoughts are in that regard.
Maybe Heritage Commission too, because it's the trolley. It was part of the history.
Can we put a site plan up that shows the sheet number 1 is fine, please.
I think we would lean heavily on the
Okay.
Conservation Commission's input on that for sure.
Particularly the integration to
If you
Moores Halls.
take a look on the left-hand side, there's 2 parallel lines that come through. That is where the trolley line was, right there. And it actually extends straight into our property.
Yeah.
Right about, it goes into our property underneath the power line, then pretty much stops. That's where the cornfield is. But where it is down through there, there are some wetlands and things there that have culverts underneath it. So it's a good walking path. And I don't know whether you're allowed bicycles and stuff on the town's land or not, but it's certainly very convenient to be able to use for people. And we would extend that out to our street. It's been discussed about doing something down by the river, perhaps as well. I will say that the terrain is well, dangerously steep, at least under the power lines down to the river. That is not safe for anyone to say, I want to go down to the river. But on this property, on the southerly, southwesterly side, it's a little bit better. There are some actually walking trails or places where people have walked before. So we'll certainly, be able to look at that to identify what that is.
Does that Lower Merrimack Regional have to get involved as well?
I don't believe you're close enough with the development. Have you gone to Lower Merrimack River Advisory Council?
I just don't know if they have to be part of this meeting.
With developed.
Quarter of a mile.
Yeah, I guess so. Limberlac.
Anything?
So it would be the Conservation Commission that would be the best
And
I
the
think
Historical
place to
Society
start
too,
to talk about.
Yeah.
About
because of the trolley, the history of the trolley, that's all.
Also sensitive species down there along the river.
So everybody they need to have,
There also looks like there's an existing path, at the edge of the cornfield, between the cornfield and the river, which might be an option as well.
Your boots on the sidewalk. If we can get down there.
Yeah.
We'll see
Yeah,
how
how
bad
much
the snow
snow.
is.
The trolley track is a good throughway to Moore's Falls.
it is.
I would hesitate the top of the riverbank because of wintering eagles.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
Wintering eagles, I would hesitate putting
All
a
right.
trail at the top of the riverbank.
Okay.
Right.
Do you have anything for street names yet?
We've got some suggestions. There are kind of along the horses, because of what it is, horses' names or breeds. But, we're open to that, but I was, looking at trying to keep that in theme with what's there.
Submit that to the selectmen and the fire department. The selectmen, I think, are the ones that approve street names.
I'll look and see what hasn't been taken.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. And there's not going to be a sign for the development like there's a Brookfield Acres on one of the more recent developments in town.
We have a Corning's Farm at River's Edge, as
Okay.
a main sign. I think the question I would ask is, and I think Eric and I have briefly talked about this, when we're looking at the road network here, we were looking at basically 3 names for 3 roads versus the little side takeoffs. Those are just going to become part of that other road that runs down. Would the board agree with that?
I think let's
So
look for
3
the,
roads.
Yes.
3 roads, and the other ones are just driveways. Their street address will be on the main road heading down, street number and address.
No,
You'd
definitely
probably want to have to talk to the fire department about
Fire
that.
department,
Yeah.
because
They're probably going to need identification for each one, like whether it's a lane or a plane or whatever you call it, but they're
Yeah.
probably going to need something for that.
Yeah.
But that's probably going to be their call.
And I believe the fire department had requested to have some hydrants placed out here, as well as to have the units, sprinkler systems with standard alarms, right, Reggie? And I think
Yeah, we weren't able to touch base. I've been trying to reach Steve, reach the fire chief, and he handed me off to another gentleman that we haven't been able to touch base yet. But all of the units will be fully sprinkled. And then as far as the fire hydrant locations, I had some questions. I had a hard time following his placement of them, understanding where exactly he wanted them. And then with respect to, what was the third one, Eric? Did he-
The alarm.
The alarm. Yeah, I had asked if he had it tied into the smoke detectors. And a lot of communities ask us to tie it into the flow device. So if a sprinkler goes off, so I was just kind of questioning him on where we'd like to see that strobe and what it's connected to. Because a lot of times people don't want to see the strobes or hear the noise if somebody's smoke detector's going off while they're
Or the popcorn.
Yeah, right.
What they're
Whole
looking,
condo's empty.
they've asked about to have a light on the outside of the building. So if your alarm's going on inside, there's a strobe light going on the outside. So anybody going by knows which building the noise is coming from.
We have our building inspector here. I don't know if you'd like to weigh in on any of that.
That's usually, I refer to the fire department for,
Okay.
so Steve usually will be looking at it and I'll be talking with him.
Okay,
So.
thank you. Was there anything else from NRPC that came out of it?
No, not at this point.
Anybody have any other questions?
Nope.
All right. Then at this time, I'd like to open it up to public input. Is there any members of the public here that would like to speak on the application? No? I guess not. Okay. Well, we're probably going to continue the application for further review because of the, to see the updated plans and everything. So I should not close public input yet, is that right?
Right, we just have a motion to continue to a date certain.
Okay,
Can I ask one more question?
yes.
Would you like to review the condo docs or have somebody review those docs?
Attorney,
Is that- Okay,
I'll get those generated for you.
that would be great, thank you. Anything else?
Do we need to make a motion to?
Well, as long as, what would be the next date?
Probably
Is
the
the
first would
15th?
probably be the
Is there-
next. I mean, if, I don't know that it would be realistic to schedule to the 15th of this month. Would we get enough done?
Okay.
I mean, that's just a question. We certainly could.
We haven't heard from the police department. I sent that the same time as the fire department, and I have to talk to them. See what
Okay.
happens.
The 15th is the next available date. I don't know if that makes sense for you guys or not.
Joan, when is the next Conservation Commission meeting?
Well, it was supposed to be this Thursday, and I'm hoping that it still is, but I'm not positive yet, so if you can get in this Thursday.
That's what I'd like to do, yeah. if I could.
So it's the 15th or the other one would be March 1st would be the one after that.
Maybe we should do the first so that, because Lou is going to want to, yeah, we want to make sure we can get the site walk in, and Lou Karen would probably want to look at the updated plans and everything.
Yep.
Does that work? Okay. So with that, I will entertain a motion to continue.
Motion to continue to March 1st.
Second.
Okay. All right. Motion by Curtis, second by James. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 6-0-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Up next would be committee reports. Anything?
Sure. We're on committee
Couple of
reports.
things?
Sure. From the Board of Selectmen, we have deliberative session Saturday, this Saturday's by February 5th. It'll be at the gymnasium at Campbell High School, 1 Highlander Court, Litchfield, New Hampshire. The Litchfield School District will present first at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then the town of Litchfield's warrants is scheduled to start at 12 o'clock p.m. If you go to the town website, www.litchfieldnh.gov, you'll see a pop-up come up, and it'll give you all the information of the date and times. It'll give you links to the candidates that are running for office. You'll see budget and warrant articles also. The next regular Board of Selectmen meeting will be held Monday, February 14th at 6:30 PM here at the Town Hall. The next planning board meeting, I guess, is February 15th, 7 PM here. As far as the Nashua Regional Planning Commission, the full commissioner meeting, they meet quarterly. The next meeting will be Wednesday, March 16th, 2022 at 7 PM at their headquarters at 30 Temple Street in Nashua. And that's all I have to report.
Anybody else? All I had was deliberative, so is there anything from the Conservation Commission or anything?
We should be meeting this Thursday. The chairman was thinking of canceling, but well, we'll have to see if it's on or not. February 3rd.
And anything regionally, Judge?
No.
Approval of minutes. Has everyone had the chance to take a look at the
Yep.
minutes? That we have a few to approve.
Yeah, there's 3. They're not really in the right order, but
Did anyone have any amendments for them?
I did on January 18th.
Okay.
I'll wait for Joan to see it. Or I can just give you my
I
markup.
got
Joan.
January 18th. 18th, okay.
It's on page 2, near the bottom, where my name is Kim Q.
Yeah.
I like the first sentence. They would like to see a buffer of trees left, if we can do a period right there. The buffer of trees was more what the abutter was seeing when he looked at the property, not when they were coming
Right, they would
out.
like to see a buffer of trees, period.
Yeah, so would they like to see a buffer of trees left, period?
Okay.
And then I added a sentence after that, that I wanted to verify for the abutter that the north entrance road was moved over.
What do you want verified?
Um,
to
Verify for the abutter.
Verify for the abutter
Yeah.
that the north entrance was moved over?
Was moved over.
South, right?
Yeah, and that's it. And then Reggie responds, we did slide the building west to keep some buffer or something. I'll just give you my markup here.
But leave the set part about, so headlights would not be directly into their property?
No, we can remove that. The abutter, it's right here, was Brent Lemare, was speaking for himself. They wanted the trees left because when they looked at the property from their house and looked across at the property, the trees were there. They wanted to leave those trees on the property there. Which, I know he calls him Reggie, but Reginald agreed that he would do that. And they are on the drawings to do that. Do you want me to just give you my markup then?
Yeah.
Sorry. All right. That's all I had.
Anybody else?
No.
Nope. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for January 12th, January 18th, and January 26th as amended.
So moved.
Motion by Curtis, second by James. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 6-0-0. Gotta get back to my agenda. Anything else? Any other business tonight?
Hope the groundhog doesn't see its shadow tomorrow.
Let's see. All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll first that. Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
A second? Okay, motion by Kim, second by Ron. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 6-0-0. Have a good evening.